some stories and cases, of course, they just don't let go of you. They echo through the decades, like a question with no answer to. And in Northern California, one of those stories and cases is the disappearance of 9-year-old Michaela Joy Garecht. She wasn't doing anything unusual, no risk behavior, no late night wandering, climbing out the window. She was just a little girl going to the corner store for candy and a soda on a Saturday morning with her friend. And in the span of seconds, her life, and the lives of her family changed forever. So today, let's talk through her story together. Not just what's happened that November morning, but what came after. The decades of searching and hoping and heartbreak. The false leads, many of them, and eventually the truth. Before we even talk about the day, Michaela has more than a name in the headline. She was born January 24th, 1979. Friends and family remember her bubbly and full of energy, with a smile that could light up a room as she walked in. She loved roller skating, music, and had the adventurous spirit so many kids have in them days. Her mom, Sharon, has written over the years how Michaela would leave little notes, tiny reminders of her love and her joy. That's the piece people often forget in true crime stories. We do not want that happen here in When Darkness Falls. That wasn't just the case here. It was a child with her whole life ahead of her. It was on November 19th, 1988, a bright, crisp Saturday morning in Hayward, California. Michaela and her best friend hopped on their scooters to ride to the Rainbow Market on Mission Boulevard. Just a short trip, the kind of things kids did in that time in their neighborhood. She'd done it many times before. They bought some snacks and were ready to head home. But when they came back outside, they noticed something strange. One of the scooters had been moved. Instead of being left right outside the door, like where it was at, it had been placed farther into the parking lot, behind a parked car. Now, to a child, this probably just seemed like an inconvenience. Michaela, being a sweet and responsible friend she was, she went to retrieve it. But as she went down to grab the handlebars, a man suddenly grabbed her from behind, pulled her into the car, and sped away. Her friend, just 9 years old herself, stood frozen in a moment and was in shock, then ran back inside screaming for help. By the time anyone could make it outside, Michaela and her abductor were gone. Witnesses described the man as a white male in his 20s, taller and slender, with dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, and notable acne or pot marks. He drove what looked like a run-down older American sedan, cream or maybe a tan color. But here's the heartbreaking part. In those first 48 hours, there were mix-up in communication. A clerk gave a description of the wrong man, and for 2 full days, police and the media spread an inaccurate description of the man. In cases like this, every second matters. Those 2 whole days could have been very crucial to finding her. The community of Hayward responded immediately. Volunteers handed out tens of thousands of flyers within days. Michaela's face appeared on milk cartons. Yellow ribbons were tied around the trees just in her honor, a tradition that continues every year at the site of her abduction. Her case gained national attention. It was featured on Unsolved Mysteries and became the first missing child case highlighted on America's Most Wanted. Even celebrities like Joe Montana made public appeal for her safe return. But despite thousands of tips, thousands of searches, and millions of prayers, no sign of Michaela was ever surfaced. Over the years, investigators looked into several possibilities for suspects. Curtis Dean Anderson, he was convicted in abduction and murder of another woman, was considered, but no solid link was found between them. The speed freak killers, Wesley and Lauren, drew attention when bone fragments were found in Lennon's well. For a while, people feared they belonged to Michaela, but they didn't. And then in 2009, when Jaycee, Dugard, was found alive after 18 years of captivity, the spotlight turned to Philip Guerrero. Her abduction had eerie similarities to Michaela's. Broad daylight, a car, Northern California. Investigators looked hard at Guerrero, but again, no evidence that connected him to Michaela. The Jaycee case, though, did something important. It reignited hope that maybe, just maybe, Michaela would still be alive. That hope carried her family through all these years. Throughout all of this, Michaela's mom, Sharon, became the voice of the search. She started a blog, wrote letters to her daughter, and never stopped advocating. Every November 19th, she held gatherings at the store site, well, it's now called Mexico Super, where people tied yellow ribbons and shared memories. She once wrote that she imagined Michaela dancing on a grassy hill, walking in streets of gold, sitting on the pink cloud. It was her way of holding on to something beautiful, even when faced with unbearable uncertainty. For over 30 years, the case remained unsolved, but in 2018, cold case detectives took another hard look at the evidence. The key? A fingerprint found on Michaela's friend's scooter. Technology has improved since the 1980s, and when they ran the print again, it matched. A man already in prison, David Misch. Misch wasn't just any suspect. He was already serving time in the 1980 murder of a woman named Margaret Ball. He had also been linked by DNA to a 1986 double murder of best friends, Michelle and Jennifer. In December 2020, Alameda County prosecutors charged Misch with Michaela's abduction and possibly murder. So let's pause here. Who is this man? David Misch grew up troubled with a history of violence and escalating crimes. By the time Michaela was taken, he was about 27 years old, drifting in and out of prison, addicted to drugs, and deeply dangerous. His known victims paint a chilling picture. In 1986, he murdered 8-year-old Michelle and 20-year-old Jennifer. In 1989, he killed Margaret Ball in Hayward. And now, decades later, investigators believe Michaela was among his victims too. In 2024, a jury convicted Misch of the Fremont murder of Michelle and Jennifer. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive 25 to life terms, on top of the life sentence he was already serving for Margaret. But when it comes to Michelle's case, the hardest part of her family is that her remains have never been found. Misch has shown no remorse, but he did sing 18 bottles of beer on the wall, disturbing his own sentence hearings, and has refused to share where Michaela might be. While Michaela's evidence points to David, still for families of the missing children, Jaycee's rescue is proof that even after decades, miracles could come true. When prosecutors finally named Misch for Michaela's case, her mother said she felt both relief and devastation. Relief that someone has held accountable. Devastation because the reality meant her daughter was truly gone. She wrote, "What I did not envision was my daughter as a dead child. I felt lost in the dark. And yet, even through their pain, Sharon has always said, it's not about her, it's about Michaela, about giving her story and case the dignity it deserves." Michaela's case reminds us of something no family should have to learn firsthand, that the unknowing can be just as painful as the full truth, that justice, even when delayed, doesn't erase the loss and the hurt. But her story and case always reminds us of resilience, of communities coming together, of mothers who refuse to let their children be forgotten and discarded. Even though Michaela never made it home, her name, her face, and her story continues to protect other children because her case case fueled conversation about child safety that still matters to this day.
First, I would like to address all the people who have accompanied me on this long, long journey. I know that as you hear this news, your hearts are breaking along with mine. In the last year, I had come to a place of accepting that Michaela was probably no longer alive, but somehow that acceptance was far more wrapped up in the idea of Michaela sitting on fluffy pink clouds, walking streets of gold, dancing on grassy hills, soaring among the stars. What I did not envision was my daughter as a dead child. It was only when I heard this news that this vision of reality appeared, and I honestly have not figured out what to do with it. A chill set in that had nothing to do with the snow outside my home in southwest Iowa. I feel as though I am still looking for Michaela, but now I don't know where. I honestly feel lost in the dark. Over the years, I often wondered whether I really wanted to know the truth of what happened to Michaela. I wondered if I would be able to take it. When I received news of the kidnapper having been identified, I asked the hard questions of Detective Purnell of what method this man used to kill his victims, and received the answers, and they were not easy. When I had doubted whether I would want to know, it always came back to if Michaela could experience it, I could hear it. Because it's not about me. It's never been about me, about my feelings. It is and always has been about Michaela. What I have been through is nothing. What I feel is not important. It is only about Michaela. The thoughts of her fear, her pain, her grief are overwhelming. Yet, as I told our detective, I am glad that the kidnapper has been identified. I am glad that there are answers. I am glad that this man will never be able to hurt anyone else. I also want to thank all the men and women of Hayward PD who have worked so hard on Michaela's case for all these years, and those who have propped me up in some of the hardest parts. I was disappointed when those who worked on the case at the time of the Garrido investigation rotated out or retired. But when Detective Robert Purnell took over the case, each of them assured me that I could not ask for a better investigator. It seems they were right. Never would I have thought that this case would be solved after 32 years. Nor was it solved by a witness providing information. It was solved by painstaking police work. My thanks also to Fremont PD for remembering Michaela and bringing Hayward into their own case. In this, I see the better angels of the investigative process, where beyond cases, there are human beings. I remember visiting Hayward PD a while into the investigation and seeing the rows of filing cabinets filled with information on Michaela's case. Every drawer was marked, not with a case number, but with a photograph of a little girl, my little girl. So thank you, all of you, for your love, a love that has endured decades for Michaela. I ask that you please don't forget her now. She is no longer a case, but she is what she always has been, and that is a bright and shining light. And in her absence from this earth, it is up to us to find a way to carry her light forward.
This is it for this case, guys. And if you'd like to see more true crime cases covered with care and respect, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, When Darkness Falls. We care, so please stay aware. There's always danger out there. The next case is already calling us. Bye for now.